You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live, but not in the Rightside studios, man. We got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international, and like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to the middle of the week. Let us not waste any time. Let's hear from the camel. Play it, man.
Uh-oh. Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woohoo! Well, welcome to Wednesday. And you may have caught the fact that I said I kind of interjected there that I am live, but not in the Rightside studios. I'm in a secret bunker, safely ensconced, but still broadcasting live to all you Rightside ruffians and pushing buttons so ably on the board. That's JP. How you doing, buddy?
Secret bunker, the Rightside secret bunker. Yes.
You're just launching missiles left and right, man.
It's so secret, guys, I don't even know where he's at. The Rightside secret bunker is ultra secret.
Secret squirrels.
Yes.
That's right. That's us. All right. Well, hey, we got a great show laid on for you. Don't even ever forget that it's middle of the week. So Wednesday means that not only do we hear the camel at the beginning of the show, but coming up at the top of the third hour, we kick off with the Grand Council with Jeff Poore and Dale Jackson joining me, two of my brethren in talk radio. They've been doing this a long time, and we get on there and ping each other with questions and just see where the chips fall. But yeah, that's the Grand Council coming up at the top of the third hour. And then we got a whole triple dipper just still filled up with stuff, so hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. So first out the gate, a strong defense. Doesn't that matter? I think it does. What's happening with our military? What are the Trump administration changes, and what's the latest, like in the last few days? Well, I'm going to talk about some of that in my monologue in a minute, but I got some more stuff you might want to hear about, to include what our U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville, who sits on Senate Armed Services, just had to say. So yeah, strong defense. That's number 1 on the Triple Dipper. Number 2, save our kids. Now listen, the left is not quitting. All right, the left is not laying down. They are all in. They're rabid. They're also desperate. They're backed in a corner. They have no plan. So their goal right now is to just scratch and claw for everything they can get, whether it rings true or not. And it seems like a lot of that stuff falls into the arena of what would have to be involving our kids. So we'll talk about it. Save our kids. That's number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, it's almost like gotten to be a regular segment. Doge doings. The Doge doings. What's the latest on Doge? Oh, by the way, is Elon Musk leaving Doge? We'll talk about all of that. Doge doings is number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, let me jump on into the Rightside Way opening monologue with you guys. And I'll remind you all that Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee, Stan McDonald is the sponsor of the Rightside Way monologue. And JP, do me a favor, put his phone number up there on the screen so I can see it where I am and I can call it out here in just a minute. All right, let me just kick off though. So late Monday afternoon, this week, Monday afternoon, the news broke that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth issued a new directive. You may recall that Hegseth was an infantry officer as recently as 2017. He got out as a major because he was irritated at the level of politicalization that he was experiencing. I mean, Hegseth he's a 2-time combat zone veteran. He had a tattoo, though, that was deemed scary and extremist. It was just a Jerusalem cross. But hey, in woke world, everything can be scary. But Hegseth, he had actually volunteered to be in support of the Capitol in D.C. when leftists were threatening to riot because of Trump's first election. He was denied the opportunity to serve because of his tattoo. Make that make sense. Oh, that's right, you can't. So, Hegseth is actually fairly fresh out of his own time in service, and he's somewhat jaded personally by the fact that he watched political wokeisms invade the province of the supposedly apolitical U.S. military. Well, you can imagine he's got a few notions about how to fix things. And he has immediately set about revising the standards, returning to an era of personal and corporate discipline. He's rooted out DEI and woke policies. Generals and admirals that have been asked to retire if they were part of the era of woke and fecklessness that marred the military over the last 4 years. And Monday, this week, he issued a directive that was designed to move some pieces on the chessboard that liberals are not going to like. See, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, he ordered that for the combat arms branches of the military, there will be one single fitness standard for both men and women. And you will meet that standard, or you will not be a frontline warfighter. That's one standard. That's an equal standard, not an equivalent standard. And the liberals don't know what to do with this. You see, the same woke policymakers and pundits who swear that a woman can actually change into a man are now going to try to claim it's unfair for a woman to be required to meet the same standards as a man. You watch. It's coming. They demand equality, but what they really want is not equality. They want equivalency. Now, for those who don't know, the military is divided into various branches within each of the services. In the Army, for instance, you can find combat service support, and combat arms. Everyone can be a warfighter at some point if necessary, but when the time comes. But the combat arms branches are in the Army are the infantry, the armor, artillery, air defense, combat aviation, combat engineers, special forces. Those are the actual combat arms branches. They are designated by virtue of their job description, their MOS, as being frontline warfighters. What most people don't know is that the physical training standards also for men and women have always been different. On the old PT test, as I was growing up in the old Army, on the old PT test, men did more push-ups, but women did more sit-ups. It was a question of anatomy, of bone structure, of muscle base. The maximum score for men might be, and I'm going to throw a number out there, 70 push-ups for your age and 65 sit-ups. But for women of the same age, it might be only 55 push-ups to max and 72 sit-ups. It's just science, really. It's two soldiers. Both have a max score, but they're not equal. They're equivalent. Not anymore. Liberal heads are going to be exploding because Hegseth has now ordered that there will be one single standard for fitness in the combat arms. Men and women, same standards. Equal treatment? Well, then equal standards. Not just equivalent anymore. Now, why is this important? All right, well, listen, some years ago, about a decade really, I was at Fort Benning for my battalion commander's course. We met with the commandant of the Ranger Training Brigade while we were there. He told us then, over a decade ago, to expect that women were going to be in the Ranger School very soon. But he swore, with almost a wink and a nod, the standards would not be lowered. Well, it may be controversial to say it, but there's plenty of evidence to the contrary. Liberals desperately wanted to portray that women are equal to men in every respect. They needed to have a Ranger-qualified woman to prove that. And in truth, the women who passed the course, they were indeed studs. They could outpace most men in the world. I get it, they were. But were they equal, or were they just equivalent? And I'm going to clarify that I don't have a beef with women in the military. I don't, not at all. They serve with every bit of selflessness and sacrifice and love of country as anybody else. But I also believe that there's a thing called realism. That at times there will be when men and women should be separate and distinct. And truthfully, we all know that much of the forced integration of women into the combat arms roles was politically driven. It was not because it made the good sense or because we did not have the base of a society to work from or draw from for recruiting. No, it was simply politics. Now, before my trolls go summon up some of their keyboard courage to send me some mean tweets, just know that I do get it. In a society like ours, with civilian oversight of the military, there will always be some measure of politics. There will. There'll be politics on spending, on action, on inaction. But where it goes over the line is when national defense is degraded to make a political point, or lives are even lost just to make a political point. Like, for instance, here's another personal experience. In Afghanistan, I was part of a small special operations team. As a part of the special operations community, my team inserted very early. My 6-man team was co-located with 12 Special Forces guys, 2 PSYOPs guys, and 1 Air Force combat controller. We wore civilian clothes. We drove civilian vehicles. Sometimes we rode horses. We lived among the Afghan people for the better part of a year. We all had beards. You know, we lived in an austere environment where the beard was really more than just a lack of shaving. Having a beard was like identifying with the populace. It was an identity with our allies. It also removed a small amount of stigma when I met with the local warlords and the local leaders and the mullahs and the average folks. And I had a good beard too, man. Full-on coverage from ear to ear. Epic. But we also, though, because of our situation, we lived in very close quarters. It was a group of guys who shared the same outhouse. We only bathed out of a bucket maybe once in a while, and it got a bit ripe around there, let me be honest with you. Well, politicians back home, though, they cared about what they cared about. So when it finally came time for my team to rotate out early, after nearly a year downrange, I was asked to submit my recommendations for the makeup of whatever team would backfill my own. It was an old world environment, right? Despite the Taliban being on the run, women still wore burqas in public. There was still a stigma associated with the West. When I had first arrived, my team was asked to actually stay off the roof of our safe house because we might see women working in their yards on the other side of the walls near our locations. Everywhere we went, we dealt with village elders, government officials, warlords, bandits, all of whom were men, and it was made very clear this was not just the Taliban. It was actually thousands of years of cultural taboos that were not going to unravel overnight. So when I was asked about who should replace my team, I specifically made note to my commander that in my area, they would do well to send an all-male team. And so the powers that be sent out a team that had 2 females. And it caused problems. It caused lots of problems, especially when one of the females insulted a village elder because he dared to question her. Look, nothing like sacrificing mission security and effectiveness just to make sure we had diversity in the field, right? Politicians issued a decree, the SecDef caved to it, and a small group of no more than 20 American Special Ops troops living in austere conditions without support or a flagpole anywhere in sight got orders that were purely political. Now, push that out to the bigger picture. This is what liberals do. They see the military as nothing but a petri dish in which they can grow their liberal experiments. Look, I recognize that not all Democrats feel or act that way, but too often, though, the far left of the political spectrum is able to use the military to assist them in feeling better about their progressive policies. By means of experimentation, by means of coverage for their bad mistakes, by means of accomplishing their purely political objectives. And let's be very clear, the military is subject to the directions and sometimes the whims of civilian leaders of our nation. Like I said, I get that. And they should be. But civilian direction is not supposed to degrade readiness. It is not supposed to equate to experimentation. It is not supposed to abuse service members. The military exists for the sole purpose of defending our nation's interests, to win wars, to kill enemies, to do all that is necessary to ensure that the national defense and the nation's interests are preserved and promoted. Politics, mixed with the military solely for the purpose of political gains, do nothing but degrade who we are as a nation, as a people, and it gets people killed. So it's beyond time for civilian leaders to go back to a position of strength and readiness, not equity and wokeness. Now, women will continue to serve in our military with honor and distinction. I fully appreciate that, and I want it that way. But there needs to be a dose of reality mixed with that service. Because there will be times when the needs of national security will transcend whether or not some politician desperately needs to virtue signal something about gender identity or gender equity or anything else. So going forward, unless some activist judge jumps in again, we're going to have women in the combat arms. They're going to go to Ranger School, and they may serve in frontline deployments, but only if they can meet an equal standard for all. Equal, not equivalent. There's a difference. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Yeah, there you have it. Probably controversial right off the bat, but you can go take us to a break, JP. But the reality is this. We've got a lot of work to do to put our military back on the solid footing that it should have been on all along. And one of those things we're having to do is address the fact that the Biden administration, the left in general, made wokeness and including gender issues more important than pure readiness. We're going to fix it. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Pulling pins on truth grenades in here. That's what we're doing. Yeah, we're going to jump into that issue of the strong defense to include that memo I just talked about on women in combat arms. But I got to tell you first, so that every day, the sponsor of the Right Side Way monologue, sponsored for you by Stan McDonald. He's an attorney out of North Alabama, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. Stan's been practicing for like over 30 years. And listen, I happen to know him personally. I'm going to be seeing him later today, as a matter of fact. But Stan McDonald is the kind of guy who has been in the mix, in the fight, on all the things that right side ruffians care about for decades, on top of the fact that he's a lawyer who could certainly help you with your legal needs. I mean, Stan has represented his clients in thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He can represent you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to say, if Stan McDonald's on your side, you're going to have no greater friend, and likewise, your adversaries will have no greater foe. So I'm going to tell you how to reach him. If you need an attorney, Stan McDonald. Law firm is Wilmer and Lee. His phone number, you ready for it? 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. Oh, yeah, and the thing. You ready? Here we go. No representation made. The quality legal service form is great. The quality legal service report of the lawyers. What do you think, man?
That was pretty good. That was like a 8.7 there. You got a little boost for being in the bunker, but yeah.
I got a boost for being in the bunker. Okay, that's cool.
You got a bunker boost.
I got bunker boost. All right, good enough. Hey, I know we're gonna run out of time before we can talk about it much, but I'm assuming JP, you saw the news that Val Kilmer has passed.
I did. Saw that late last night. It's
a loss.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a real loss.
Well, I saw Babylon Bee put out an article that said that men nationwide will be honoring him by re-saying his quotes from Tombstone, as they do every day anyways.
Listen, I do it all the time. I mean, I just say, I'm your Huckleberry.
Yeah.
My Johnny Ringo, you look like someone just walked over your grave. There's so many lines in that one movie. So what's your favorite Val Kilmer movie?
I was actually I forgot that he played Iceman in Top Gun 2. And
how'd you forget that?
I don't know if I mean, it's not that I forgot it, but I guess I was pleasantly reminded of that. I don't know. It's hard to beat Tombstone, man. Tombstone is just iconic. It's iconic. It's hard.
I look back and think he should have gotten an Oscar for Tombstone.
Yeah. I mean, did he not?
No.
Wow.
As far as I know, he never received an Oscar for anything. But I think that one role right there was so defining. In fact, it's kind of funny. I don't know if you remember this or not, but there were two Wyatt Earp movies that came out at the same time. Mm-hmm. There was Tombstone with Kevin. Kevin Costner started one called Wyatt Earp, mm-hmm. and the guy that played Doc Holliday in that one, I just lost his name, but I'm going to think of it in a second. Is a great actor. But he was so overshadowed by the one that Val Kilmer had played that came out almost at the same time mm-hmm. that it just didn't get the air. I mean, it didn't get the airtime it should have.
One of the greatest actors ever, Val Kilmer, I'd say, for sure.
Yeah. And he certainly, it was easy to hate in the original Top Gun when he played Iceman.
Yeah, he was. He was a great bad guy.
But you know what was cool? I know we got the music playing, but what was cool was in the Top Gun Maverick, I thought they did great homage to his character and gave him an out, which was very cool. All right, we got plenty more where that came from. Y'all stay tuned. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. We will be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. Whew, goes from Huntsville way on back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa way on back over to Gadsden. I mean all the way down to that loveliest little town on the plains, Final Four, and all the way over to what we now recall Fort Benning, Georgia. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. You like how I keep throwing in the Final Four up there piece?
Sorry, did you?
I do.
I didn't hear you say that, actually. I zoned out.
Well, hey, by the way, Final Four. Just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna pray them through, man. Just loving it.
Well, they're gonna need it against Florida.
Yeah. Well, anybody would. But I got no illusions about it being an easy game.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, glad we're there. But let me jump on some text line stuff. You guys are amazing. Y'all are texting in like crazy. Text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it or call it, same number for both. Wow, a bunch of y'all chiming in. Hugh from Huntsville just said, great monologue. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Allie from Athens says, Colonel, you and I were in the great sandbox at the same time. All I can say to everything you just discussed in the monologue is amen, amen, and amen. Mandatory wokeness gets Joes and Janes kidnapped and or killed, and not cool. Allie, spot on. Thank you for your service, my friend. Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Phil, I'd like to know how the Israelis incorporate women to their military, which seems to have it down pat pretty well as to what kind of standards and what services they do. Yeah, and by the way, Jeff, keep in mind, too, the Israeli population is small enough to where, and they are so surrounded, that they don't have the luxury to the degree that we do of saying that there will be a discriminatory purpose. But I'm still going to say that there are places within the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, where it's all male, and it's just life. John from Huntsville checking in. He says, Phil, Phil, you're back. I am. Of course I am. But thank you. And he says, Phil, spectacular monologue. Thank you, sir. Also, did you hear that the Republicans won both House races in Florida last night, but Democrat Susan Crawford won the judges race in Wisconsin? I did. I'll talk about that later. By the way, JP, your score for yesterday was an A++ for answering my text message, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have gotten my lawn mowed before supper time, and man, that was some fried fish that was delicious. What?
He was texting me if you were going to come back, and I told him, yeah, probably not. So he wouldn't.
So he went and mowed grass because I wasn't there yesterday?
Yeah. Well, he'd already heard the show before, so yeah.
That's true. Yeah, by the way, I apologize for yesterday. There are times when you cannot do a thing about the fact that as an attorney, a judge says, hey, you have to be here at a certain place, certain time, and you just have to say, yes, Your Honor, and you go and you do what you're supposed to do. So I was in court all afternoon yesterday. It actually went very well, but nonetheless, it precluded my ability to be with my ruffians. Thank you, JP, for running the show.
Mm-hmm.
John M. from Huntsville said, I disagree with JP. That was clearly a 9.3. Hey, wow. So the Huntsville judge gives me a 9.3. JP, what do you think of that?
Hey, I can't disagree with the audience, I guess. So 9.3 it is.
Mel from Huntsville checks in. He says, I read that I'm your huckleberry is actually I'm your hucklebearer. A huckle is a handle on the side of a casket. That may be, but I'm pretty sure he said berry in the movie, and we're going with it. So,
who cares about the truth? It sounds cool. It sounds cool, so we're going with it.
It is what we love, too, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, and hey, by the way, Scott from Russellville just checked me. He said Dennis Quaid was the one who played Doc Holliday. And thank you, Scott. It was like a total brain cramp. That's what I get for trying to talk about something on the fly. Yeah, Dennis Quaid. He did a great job, by the way. And if you look back at it, Dennis Quaid, because he knew he was playing, Doc Holliday had tuberculosis in real life. He knew he was playing somebody who was tubercular. He got scary weight loss accomplished for the role.
Wow.
You ought to look up his picture, JP. Look up Dennis Quaid, Doc Holliday, and look at his picture. I mean, he looks like a concentration camp victim.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he does. I see that.
Yeah, you see it?
Yeah.
He didn't have a lot of weight to lose in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But Not like his big brother, cousin Eddie, Randy Quaid.
Yeah.
Jack from Huntsville says, one of my favorite directors is Michael Mann. Yep. And Val Kilmer was terrific in Heat. Yes, he was. I'd forgotten about Heat. He also played the Saint. He was in he was in a lot of things, but his most notable roles, of course, are going to wind up being the Top Guns, and then nothing beats Tombstone.
Nope.
Red from Tony, Alabama says Phil's monologue is the #1 segment on this radio station. Wow, Red, appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for that, and we'll keep doing what we do. And I'll be honest with you, every once in a while, I kick myself for starting this whole monologue thing because that means every day I've got to do one. But at the same time, it's a labor of love. I write and I don't AI this thing. I write a fresh monologue every single morning, like with a cup of coffee, real super early. And then JP sees me sending it in. What time do I email it to you, JP? Usually around like 07, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. 7 a.m.
It's just what I do, man.
I can confirm. He's not lying.
It's true. And then Jeremy from Madison says, Val Kilmer's acting in Real Genius and Top Secret showed exquisite skill, but his playing of Mad Mardigan and Willow is my favorite. Huh. I'd forgotten about this. I need to go look that up. I think that was a rather weird movie, if I'm not mistaken. But I will check that out. Jeremy, thank you very much. Val Kilmer fan, apparently. All right, listen, there's plenty on tap to talk about today, but one of the first dipper here, I'm going to go ahead and be controversial and say there's a time and a place for women to serve, and there's a time and a place for men to serve by themselves. And that's okay. That is not a slight of women. That is saying there will be times when the needs of the mission may dictate, AKA, look what I went through. So in my role in Afghanistan, it was remote. It was in a weird environment. It was what the Army called austere. You heard me talk about it in my monologue. We literally lived among the Afghan people. For us to come in there, I mean, there were times when I had to assert myself and say, that's not the way we're going to do business because we're Americans and we're different. But for the most part, I tried not to ruin the cultural advantage of identifying with my counterparts. When I'm trying to make inroads with the local warlord in Kunduz province, Afghanistan, at the beginning of the war, the last thing I need to do is offend him because I drag a woman into the meeting and it sets everything back. I mean, there's nothing responsible about that. Special Forces, when they go to the Q course, when Special Forces go to the Special Forces qualification course to be Green Berets, the final exercise they go through is called the Robin Sage exercise. And in Robin Sage, they spend a lot of their time working on how to develop, and they have a role playing. I mean, they have people that are actors that play the roles of what are known as the G forces, the guerrilla forces. And so the guys who are training to be Green Berets, everybody thinks of Green Berets as being like SEAL Team 6. They're not. They're capable of direct action. But Green Berets' original mission, and much of Special Operations' original missions, are to be able to go in and to work with the indigenous forces and to create a bridge to the cultural barriers, and then to create a fighting force behind the enemy lines. It is said that one 12-man Special Forces team should be able to create a battalion-size element of fighters. That being said, you don't get a lot of ground gained if you go in there and start offending them. So in my case in Afghanistan, I made it real clear. If you send a woman out here to this area, it's not going to go well. What do? They sent 2. I could tell you some stories. It was... I heard about them after the fact because my team, we pulled out, that team backfilled us. There we were living among the Afghan people. They came in to replace us, and next thing you know, they're facing setbacks. And they literally had to start leaving the women back at the safe house because they couldn't get some of the stuff done they had to get done. It was asinine. Now, I am not saying that the women couldn't survive. They couldn't fight if need be. They certainly had some skills. I know they did. But their presence in the mission was not mission-oriented. It was political. That's all it was. Well, so what Pete Hegseth just did was he took the stance that there will be times when the combat arms, and again, the combat arms, There's no slight of anybody. This is the way it's set up. You have combat service support, you have combat support, like your logistics and all of that, and then you have combat arms in the Army. I'm just talking about Army. And the combat arms branches are the direct line warfighters. In other words, you signed up, not to be a mechanic, not to be a cook, not to be a JAG officer, not to be a medical officer. You signed up to be a warfighter. So you're going to be infantry or armor or artillery or air defense artillery or combat engineers like sappers or combat aviation or special forces. And there's a reason why you train people to be the frontline warfighters. And what Pete Hegseth is saying is, perhaps it's time for us to consider not just that women have been given an opportunity now to serve in those places that were always designated just for men, because they were until recent years. But now what he's saying is, that's fine. But I, as a Secretary of Defense, recognize that there will be time, because he was one. He was an infantry officer. He said, I, as Secretary of Defense, recognize that there will be a time and a place where the standards must be met equally, not equivalently. In other words, if you have to be able to carry 60 pounds of equipment on your back, then you just have to be able to carry 60 pounds of equipment on your back. And so in training, if you're going to say it's a 60-pound pack or rucksack for a 10K road march in a certain amount of time, it's the same standard for men and women. Now, some will say, it already has been. No, not always. It's not always. It's not always. You got to be able to make sure that it's both mission-oriented and that the standards are equal for the combat arms, is what he's saying. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, I'm going to give you some of the legal basis upon which I think he can rely, because I believe that there's going to soon enough be a challenge. I mean, like I said, the left wants you to believe that women can be men, but they don't want real women to be held to men's standards. Come on. We'll talk about it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. All right, so we got a lot to talk about on this situation with Hegseth. And by the way, I got more than just that on the defense side. All right, we're going to talk about strong defense in a variety of capacities. But let's not overlook the fact that this, I don't think it's getting a lot of media time, but I think it's going to have monumental effects. In fact, let me say this. This is what Pete Hegseth, Secretary Hegseth, said himself. All right, with regards to the idea of having one single standard for men and women serving in combat roles. He said, for far too long, we've allowed standards to slip and different standards for men and women in combat arms, MOSs, and jobs, and that's not acceptable. He said we need to have the same standards, male or female, in our combat roles to ensure that our men and women who are under our leaders and in those formations have the best possible leaders and the highest possible standards that are not based at all on your sex. And then he said, I'm directing the secretaries of the various military departments to develop comprehensive plans to distinguish combat arms occupations from non-combat arms occupations. All right, what does that mean? What it's saying is there may wind up being a tougher standard, and there should be, for someone who wants to be in the airborne infantry as opposed to someone who is going to serve as a dental hygienist in the military. And nothing against either job. What I'm saying is one is far more physically demanding and requires things of the individual that the other might not. So Hegseth is saying this effort will ensure that our standards are clear, mission-focused, and reflective of the unique physical demands placed on our service members in their various roles. So he's calling for what he calls heightened entry-level and sustained physical fitness standards. Interesting. He says, in his memo, he actually says, all entry-level and sustained physical fitness requirements within the combat arms must be sex-neutral, based solely on the operational demands of the occupation and the readiness needed to confront any adversary. All right. So is he going to get legally challenged? Probably. Which is also ironic, by the way. Think about this. How ironic the fact that you've got an entire leftist woke community that will demand that we believe that a woman can be a man when she changes her mind. Certainly. Why not? Gender fluidity. It's all good. But then if we start saying, all right, we're going to have one standard, men and women, period. Wait, you can't do that. Of course we can. I thought you said it didn't matter. Well, here's the thing. The legal standard, and I've talked about it before, but I'm going to go from being Colonel Phil to Lawyer Phil just for a minute. What I really believe that is going to be to the Secretary of Defense's benefit is a legal argument for what is known as a bona fide occupational qualification. If you want to amaze your friends at the next water cooler conversation, sling this at them. Tell them, well, how's Hegseth going to do this? Well, is Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 allows for what's called a BFOQ, a bona fide occupational qualification. That means that whereas we're typically not allowed to discriminate in our hiring or promotional capability in a job based on things like, gender, pregnancy, age, demographics, like, your skin color, you're typically not allowed to. But you can look at the job and go, that job can only be done by somebody who has these characteristics. So whereas you can't discriminate against somebody because they're handicapped for most jobs, you can if they want to be a fireman or if they want to be an airborne ranger. I'm sorry, sir, I apologize, but you're in a wheelchair. There's no way you can be an airborne ranger. It's our bona fide occupational qualification. You have to be able to be on your feet and carrying a 60-pound rucksack and another, 40 pounds of combat equipment while wearing body armor. And, oh, by the way, another, 45 pounds of parachute and reserve chute. And you have to be able to do all these things. Anyway, the bottom line is this. Bona fide occupational qualification. That's exactly what he's doing. He's saying, hey, you can be in the infantry, but you can only be in the infantry if you can do X and so. Hey, you can go to Ranger School, but only if you do it like X and so, which is going to set a standard, which is going to mean that the BFOQs under the Civil Rights Act, oh no, by the way, on the Age Discrimination and Employment Act, both of them, The Civil Rights Act of 64, the ADEA, the Age Discrimination Act of 67, I believe it is. Those two federal laws allow for you to set a different standard you would not normally be allowed to set. And the military is one of the classic uses of BFOQs. How many people out there, well, like me, I wanted to be an aviator at first. I did. I wanted to fly helicopters. Wasn't going to happen with my eyesight. I've since had my eyes corrected. But when it all started, I became an infantry officer because I still could. I'm never going to, fly. I've known guys who were challenged on being a Navy SEAL because they were colorblind. Didn't mean they weren't studs. It meant that they were colorblind, and you couldn't be colorblind and be a SEAL. There are BFOQs. So, end result is this. This standard is going into effect. It's unclear, according to military.com, who hates anything conservative. By the way, military.com, what a rag. But I do go there. Phil, did you go to military.com? I did. But military.com is, they're concerned about the sweeping review of military fitness standards. But before the Pentagon can tighten requirements, there has to be clarity. Okay, well, I understand that. But then they go into all the hand-wringing. This is a hand-wringing article. At the center of the push is a familiar talking point, gender-neutral fitness. Okay, what's your point? Well, the bottom line is this. We got to do it. You know why? Because we want a lethal fighting force. And we need to know that everybody in that foxhole has the ability to do everything that everybody else can do in that foxhole. Enough said on that. Hey, we're going to get back from this break here momentarily, and I'm going to tell you, I got some stuff on here you might want to know about. What did Tommy Tuberville say about the military service academies like West Point and Annapolis? What did Pete Hegseth say about his trip to Japan recently and how that factors into the deterrence with China? And then what are we looking at in terms of our southern border and how that, implicates things for national defense? All of this stuff is coming up here momentarily. All of it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live, but not in the Rightside studio. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international, and like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to the middle of the week, hour number 2. We're going to get you all the way to go home time come a Friday. Y'all stand by for that. Hey, by the way, I will go ahead and announce to you in advance that a part of the reason why I'm not sitting in the studio is I am en route to a destination for meetings that I think are going to be potentially very impactful for Rightside Media. Can't announce what it's about, but just glad to say that things are happening and we're growing and things are going good. But that being said, tomorrow Yaffe will be joining the JP running the show themselves, and so JP, you will have the con tomorrow.
I appreciate the confidence. I won't let you down.
Maybe that's what con stands for. Maybe
Yeah.
it's con. I think it stands for control. Either way, it works.
Yeah.
Anyway, that'll be tomorrow, and I'm glad that I've got such amazing folks to rely on the days when things happen. Twice in 1 week doesn't usually happen to me, but here we are, and this one is for pretty important reasons. Anyway, let me jump back on the topic at hand. In fact, I'll tell you what, let me take some text messages first. I noticed that Kevin from Huntsville texted in. He said, one of the other challenges of women on the front line is if they get captured. The enemy's potential treatment of a female captive would put us in a negotiating position we don't want to be in. And we've seen that. And that is a thing, certainly. And it's just look at what happened with the the Hamas attacks on October 7th, a year and a half ago against Israel. Not everybody uses Geneva Conventions. Not everybody acts like a first world country. And so, yes, there are going to be times when that's also a consideration. Andrew and by the way, special operations, there are women in special operations. Don't kid yourselves. There are. But you're right, Kevin. You make a great point. Andrew from Tony, Alabama says, from what I understand, the U.S. Marines started training troops to cycle magazines during reloading the way Val Kilmer did in Heat during a firefight scene of the. That's kind of cool. I've never heard that, but that's interesting. I'll check that out. Kennan from Huntsville, Alabama says, my dear departed mother served in the Navy Waves in World War II. There you go. She was highly opposed to women serving in combat or being integrated to male units, even joining Phyllis Schlafly's fight to defeat the so-called Equal Rights Amendment. Well, thank you for your mother's service, first of all, both civilian and military. Kennan, thank you very much. Fritzy from Huntsville says, Colonel, clear monologue as normal. Missed you yesterday. Ammo, thank you. I appreciate that, Fritzy. Says, ammo and fuel don't care who's carrying them, just what they're getting carried, just that they're getting carried to where they're needed. 155 millimeter M107 round with a fuse about 90 pounds. A can of 7.65 linked about 30 pounds. 5 gallons of diesel fuel about 35 pounds. Fritzy. You are so correct, sir. There will be times. There will be times. And then Scott from Athens says, make pioneer women great again. What? Says feminism and boss girls and the accommodation thereof has helicopter mom to this country. Signed, bold talk from a one-eyed fat guy, Scott. By the way, that's a line from one of my favorite movies of all time, True Grit. I caught it. All y'all should catch it. Rooster Cogburn. What do you aim to do, Rooster? I aim to see you before the judge and force out or be hanged. Your choice. That's bold talk for a one-eyed fat man. Well, fill your hands. Okay, I can quote movies all day long, JP. You've
Never seen that
right?
one, though. No.
You know what? We're gonna have to watch True Grit. It's a rite of passage. We're gonna have to make it happen.
I'll add it to the list.
Although I did show you that scene, didn't I?
Yeah. You showed me that one scene, and he ended up, riding off on his horse while struggling. Yes, I did see that scene.
Yes.
You showed me to it.
Spin cocking that Winchester with the reins in his teeth and a Colt Peacemaker in the other hand. Yep.
Pretty epic.
True Grit. All right, so back on topic. Strong defense. Let's wrap this one. But there's other things besides that memo that are going on. Like, for instance, on the world stage right now, military strategists consider Russia is certainly a thing. It is. Let's not deny it. It is. But it's more of a thing in terms of what is happening with Russia in a foreign policy standpoint, the settlement of the fight in Ukraine. But in terms of having a true near-peer adversary, is what they call it. In military strategy, they call this a near-peer adversary. We don't have any direct peers. We are still the number one fighting force in the world. But our near-peer is China. And Secretary of Defense Hegseth just got back, piece on NBC News, Dateline 2 days ago. Secretary Hegseth just made a trip to Japan. And some of the things that are coming out, for those who don't follow military policy directly, they're missing out on this. This is a nuanced article, but when you read between the lines, you realize what just happened. So let me break this one down for you. Pete Hegseth says the U.S. is making Japan a warfighting base to deter China. There's our near-peer adversary. Hegseth's comments come as an assurance at a time when Japan has been worried about how the region might change under Donald Trump's America First policy, but Japanese officials heard a lot from Hegseth that gave them some peace because China is growing. China's presence in the South China Sea, as against Taiwan, encroachments into other aspects of the Near East. They came into some agreements when he was in Japan. They agreed to help develop and produce additional AMRAAMs. That's the medium-range air-to-air missile, as well as surface-to-air missiles. They agreed to speed up the process of evolving maintenance of U.S. warships and warplanes in Japan to strengthen and basically complement the Japanese Defense Forces. They also, by the way, we have 50,000 U.S. service members there. They also agreed, and Hegseth announced, he's upgrading what's known as the command structure by putting what is known as a unified operational commander. What that basically means is it's now a warfighting headquarters. We're not just looking at it being a place where you have to maintain, billeting and maintenance of U.S. forces. It's not just a forward projection base now. Putting a unified operational commander there, somebody who can command all operational forces in the theater in a combatant commander role, is a significant step up in terms of operational capability. That just put in place that there will be a general or an admiral who has warfighting capability and unified command structure capability over all U.S. military forces stationed in Japan. Near-peer adversary China, I guarantee you, is leaning forward looking at this one very carefully. The world doesn't always realize what just happened, but I can tell you right now, that's a significant move. And then you look at things like this one. Our own U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville. Piece here on Alabama Daily News. Senator Tuberville, who is chairman of the Armed Services Subcommittee on Personnel, is focused on improving the military academies by boosting enrollment and ridding them of diversity initiatives. What this basically means is Tuberville has taken it upon himself as being the chair of the Subcommittee on Personnel for Senate Armed Services to get the woke out of our West Point, out of our Naval Academy, out of the Air Force Academy, all of it. Basically, our service academies are going to get back to being mission-focused, and they are Ivy League educations, but they're going to have a mission focus that is not about diversity. It's not about wokeness. We're going to be training the next generation of military leaders. We're going to get back to the days that it was not just an honor to go to West Point, but it was absolutely a mission-focused education. So the superintendents from all the academies testified in front of him. And Tuberville said this. He said, over the last several years, the academies have lost sight of the fundamental reason for their existence, to commission officers with education required by their respective military branches. Tuberville said the academies have placed way too much emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion, even teaching critical race theory. And so the bottom line is, that's gone. Thank you, Alabama. Can I have some applause for that? Do you have any applause for that? That's a worthy applause piece right there. It's huge. Yeah, I mean, listen, you got recruit. By the way, they're having trouble filling the billets at some of these academies too. It's not just recruiting for the ranks of the regular military. Even the service academies are having trouble filling out the ranks, or have been. But gone are those days. What we're looking at now is that the academies are going to get back to being mission-focused. Superintendent of the Military Academy at West Point, Lieutenant General Steve Gilland, said out of more than 600 classes, 2 were eliminated to comply with the order. In other words, what they had, and by the way, the Naval Academy had to cancel 18 classes. What does that mean? They had classes that were a part of the curriculum that are no longer allowed because of the DEI CRT rule changes. Can you imagine? The Naval Academy had to cancel 18 classes, or at least modify them, because they were teaching curriculum that is now banned in the effort to. What does that tell you about where they were? It's unbelievable. But listen, what I'm loving the fact, though, is we're getting back to being mission focused. We're getting back to being warfighters. We're getting back to having a military that will, win friends and kill enemies, but it'll also break stuff and kill people, I'm telling you. And that's the way it should be. By the way, speaking of which, we have a commander-in-chief now who also gets his job. Piece on Red State dated, was this 2 days ago? On Monday, President Trump took to his Truth Social account to count coup on you. By the way, counting coup. You know what that is, JP? Counting coup? You ever heard of that?
I do not know.
Okay, I guess because I read a lot of Louis L'Amour books when I was growing up, a lot of cowboy books, a lot of mountain man books. Counting coup was something that I believe it was the Sioux Indians. They believed that if they could come up on you during the night while you were sleeping and leave a sign that they had been right next to you without taking your life, they had counted coup against you. And it was like saying, I was here, I could have killed you, but I chose not to. So there's that.
Interesting. That's kind of a badass way to go about it, but yeah.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
But the article says, and I love this, he counted coup against Iran. The Iran-backed Houthi terrorists have been decimated by relentless airstrikes over the past 2 weeks. And Trump points out that it's going to continue, that they're going to do everything they can to completely dismantle Iran. But then he went on to say, basically, not just Iran, I'm sorry, the Houthis. But then he went on to tell Iran, and you better understand, this means you too. I mean, so this full article right now is a message that's rather explosive to the Houthis. He put them on absolute notice. We're going to keep wearing you out. He said, we hit them every night, day and night, harder and harder. Their capabilities that threaten shipping in the region are being destroyed. Our attacks will continue till they're no longer a threat. And the choice for the Houthis is clear, said President Trump. You stop shooting at U.S. ships, we stop shooting at you. Otherwise, we have only just begun, and the real pain is yet to come for both the Houthis and their sponsors in Iran. Nice to have a commander-in-chief that talks like a commander-in-chief, isn't it? How about that? JP, I've got to take a break, but I see that I got a caller, and make sure that caller knows if he hold on to the break, I'll get him as soon as we come back. But right now, we got to take a break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, let me go to the phones. Carl from Decatur held on. I appreciate his patience. So, hey, Carl, how you doing?
I'm doing fairly well, Phil. I just wanted to say I listen to you because you say, and you have a platform to say, what I would say if I had it. In other words,
thank you.
You think like I think, and that's the
Well, I
reason
appreciate
why I'm a conservative. So, but main thing about combat readiness, I was in the Army from 74 to 78, and under Gerald Ford, a lot of this stuff was just warming up with a lot of the females being involved in, combat situations and stuff. But when I was stationed in Europe, the deal was no female was allowed to go on courtesy patrol. That is, ride around in the neighborhoods and pick up the drunk soldiers and stuff like that. We were armed. We had a staff sergeant. I was a buck sergeant. I had a specialist. All of us was armed during that time. And the deal was also that I bring attention to in that Cold War era was that the Russians, we could not touch them, but they could beat the hell out of us, and we couldn't do nothing but report it. And I didn't like that worth nothing. And so I saw when George Bush laid down the law what the troops could and could not do, and I had a couple of guys that was in the church. They had went to Iraq and Afghanistan, and they didn't like what was going on, and they almost got killed in their service time. But, I thank God for all of the guys that have served, the ones that are maimed. And, I didn't get the chance to listen to all what you were saying because I was trying to get a wheelchair for myself because I have a disability, just, from that. But at any rate, I just wanted to chime in and say the women, they have their place, but in your monologue, you were spot on, man. I mean, I went to NCO Academy. Let me say this, and then I'll quit. I went to NCO Academy, and 2 women made me fail, and that was because of it. The exercise that they put before me, they didn't want to do it, and the guys that was grading me told me, "Hey, look, you were supposed to make them women do what the other guys were supposed to do. They didn't want to get in the water," was what it was about. And so I was thinking, this is a bad thing, whereas, you have men are more protective of women. I saw all of that during the time I was in. So, I'm thankful that somebody got some sense like Pete Hexet to set the record straight and try to put us on a footing to whereas the Army does what it does. That's break things and tear up things and kill people who are against our way of living.
Sergeant Carl, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for your service to our nation and for still having a right side ruffian attitude. But buck sergeants rule the Army, and we all know it. But thank you for what you did.
Well, thank you for being who you are and doing what you do.
All right, brother. You have a great day. Thanks so much. Well, listen, wow. I tell you what, you want to change the world, put a buck sergeant in charge. You're going to get there. And by the way, if you really want to make something happen, take an E4, put hard corporal stripes on him, and just turn him loose. But anyway, Carl, thanks for the call very much. Appreciate you. Hey, I'll end with this. Strong defense. Strong defense. We think about the near-peer adversaries like China. We think about things happening out there about, what we're doing with readiness in our forces. Do not lose sight of this, though. Real Clear Defense has an article that says Hezbollah is actually on our southern doorstep. We have massive input from the RAND Corporation showing that Hezbollah has networks all over South America, and they have been attempting to do things even on our southern border regions. And so, strong defense, we better have it for the homeland as well as abroad. All right, did I hear music playing, JP? I can't hardly hear it. Am I hearing it?
Yes, you are.
It is playing. We're going to a break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Man, covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all have talked about this show. Woo, goes from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. From Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. All the way down to that loveliest little town on the plains we call Auburn. And, oh yes, Final Four. And then across the border, even to Fort Benning. We now call it Fort Benning again. And then just big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. All right, it is. We're halfway through hour number 2. Don't forget, coming up top of the hour, we're going to have the Grand Council with my brethren in talk radio, Jeff Poore and Dale Jackson, host of their own shows on various channels around the state. I got to tell you guys, so this Rightside Radio you're listening to right now. This is only one piece of what Rightside Media, the parent company, does. It is absolutely just like the hub of what we do, Rightside Radio. You Rightside ruffians have helped us to grow and to do more. Well, the do more is all the stuff you can find on our website, and I want to encourage you to go check it out. Rightside Radio is just, like I said, Rightside Media is the big company. RightSideMedia.org, that's the website. And on RightSideMedia.org, you're going to find all kinds of stuff. You're going to find all of our podcasts, because we have 5 different video podcasts that come out every week for the most part. And they're all on there. You can find all of them. All our shows are on there. You can find, of course, the podcasted version of this radio show. In case you missed something, you want to catch it again, it's all on there. It's also, by the way, all of it's on YouTube, all of it's on Rumble, all of it's on, we're live streaming on Rumble. We got a lot of stuff on our social media platforms. You can find links to every bit of it at RightSideMedia.org. One other thing that's on there, though, is the merch store. And we got some new merch coming, because you guys have been buying up all we got. But we restocked some shelves, and we, by the way, got some new shirts coming in, a different style. I think you're going to like it. We got the coffee mugs, we got the hats. So if you have not seen the merch store, go to RightSideMedia.org, look at our store, and get you a coffee mug. Or, by the way, get you one of our highball glasses that say Rightside Media Bulletproof Influence, and they have an embedded .308 round in the glass itself. Very cool. All right. That's enough of my shameless plugs. But, check out RightSideMedia.org. All right, let's jump into Dipper number 2, shall we? I think we shall. Save our kids. Listen, it's amazing to me the things that liberals will do. The absolutely incessant attempt by libs to gain access to our children. And then the absolutely incessant means by which liberals give them that access on a regular basis. I've told you before, but I'll remind you that Alabama may be the only one in the nation that has a charter school located right here in the Birmingham region, in Homewood, the Magic City Acceptance Academy. The Magic City Acceptance Academy. They're funded through the state budget. They are a public school with a special charter. And the Magic City Acceptance Academy is, for all practical purposes, a school that focuses on the LGBTQ lifestyle and calls itself a safe place, if you will, a safe place for LGBTQ students. Being a charter school means that kids can come there from other regions. And so you have some kids that are, pronouncing themselves gay or, transgender or whatever, who go there because it's a school using state funds that appears to focus more on lifestyle than it even does on education. I don't know what their numbers are, and I think it's worth knowing. I need to know what their numbers are. How did they fare in the rankings? Are their test scores high? Well, all right. If they are, I want to know, because right now what I do know is they have been found to have major DEI information on their websites. They have had drag queen, dance-offs and things for fundraisers at the school. They celebrate the LGBTQ lifestyle. They're all for transgenderism. They even had a story recently that the principal of the school was ready to help pay for a mastectomy for a young teenager. That doesn't need to be happening with state tax dollars. If you think you can survive without government subsidization, then go do it. Make a private school and see how you do. But our tax dollars shouldn't be paying for that. And no one can argue me off that point. Our tax dollars should not be focused on those lifestyle choices. They should be focused on the education of the child, period. Well, Phil, they feel safe there so they can get better educated. Can they really? Is the drag queen story hour going to really help their education? Is it very important that they have a rainbow flag so they know they can get an education? We already have laws against bullying. We have all the things you're worried about being taken care of, but what you really want is a special place where you can hang rainbow flags and teach a lifestyle. And I don't know how, by the way, I don't know how in the world this is allowed to even happen. Because the Alabama Public Charter School Commission is the one that granted them the charter. And oh, by the way, guess who is the de facto head of the state school board under which the Alabama Public Charter School Commission falls? Governor Kay Ivey. And she has never said boo about it, to my knowledge. But that's right here in Alabama. And by the way, we got a couple other things to think about. And now, by the way, I didn't mean to just bash Kay Ivey. I guess I kind of did. Because there's something else that's going on that I really do appreciate about what she's doing in education. When it comes to saving our kids, I mean, I told you the story the other day. 1819 had the piece, and I pulled it up again just to have it with me. Dateline 2 days ago about Auburn High School parents, at actual Auburn High School, concerned after a school administrator posted for kids to come by and pick up their Transgender Day of Visibility ribbons to wear on Transgender Day of Visibility Day. I mean, an actual post using the posting app that they use to notify parents of events and all those kinds of things. I think it's called Schoolology. I believe it's Schoolology. And the post actually read, "Attention, Auburn High School. Anyone who would like to wear a ribbon in support of Transgender Day of Visibility this Monday, March 31st, please stop by the Educate GSA Club table in the hallway outside the cafeteria." Apparently the only people who have access to Schoolology to post those kind of things are actual school administrators. So people are bothered by this. But you know what? In Alabama, we do have an opportunity now. Saving our kids in the education arena may mean giving parents choices. So props to Governor Ivey on this. Governor Ivey is encouraging people right now to sign up for Choose Act participation. In Alabama, we passed one of the most comprehensive school choice bills anywhere. So for all my Tennessee listeners, I know y'all just did this. We were finally a year ahead of you on something. But the Alabama Choose Act went into effect. It's Choose Act is the creating hope and opportunity for our students' education. Passed it back in 2024. Tennessee legislature passed theirs this year. But the Choose Act goes into effect, and parents can sign up. So if you're like one of those Auburn High School parents and you're worried about it, or for that matter, if you're the parent of a child who has announced themselves as gay, and you're worried about being bullied at a school, you can change schools under the Choose Act. We don't have to have a special charter school just for gay kids. If you're worried about where they are, you can send them somewhere else. You can even send them to a private school with tax dollars. But right now, the Choose Act, the sign-ups are for the first school year about to run out. Basically, the application process is going to be open through, I think it's April 7th. So you got 5 days left. And if you want to get your kid from one school to another, or if you want to have some money for the homeschooling you do, or if you want to send your kid to private school, you can get up to $7,000 for students to go to a different school. $4,000 for homeschools. And this is a huge deal. So the thing about saving our kids, I guarantee you right now, there's some parents probably down at Auburn High School that are going, that's it. You know what? We're moving. We're going down the street. We're going to do something different. If you're going to be sending out notices about Transgender Day of Visibility on the school, app for all students and parents, then guess what? We're making changes. Well, you can now. Saving our kids means school choice. So in Tennessee, that's coming. You're about to be able to sign up for it in the near future. But in Alabama, you already can. And the open enrollment for this year, for this first year, I believe it's mostly income-based. But next year or the year after, I forget which, it goes to anybody and everybody who wants to move. So you are not trapped. You do not have to have an all-gay school called the Acceptance Academy. You don't have to have that. You can go anywhere you want now. You do not have to stay in the school down at Auburn where the administrators feel compelled to have to send out things about Transgender Day of Visibility. If we're going to save our kids, it means taking stands. And it means also, by the way, taking advantage of opportunities. Thank you, Governor Ivey, for pushing people to remember that you've got 5 days left for this year's enrollment in the CHOOSE Act in Alabama. Now, there's other things happening. You remember a few weeks ago I had Maine State Representative Laurel Libby on the show. And Representative Libby is really taking a stand on the idea of women's sports being completely corrupted by men who believe they're women. And so right now, Laurel Libby, her stand has become a national phenomenon. People know her everywhere now. But Maine school officials, according to Fox News, Dateline, 4 days ago, are that they are still not going to comply with President Trump's administration's order to barring transgender athletes participating in girls' sports. They're still resisting. As a state, they're still resisting, and they're basically just taking this position that we're not going to change. In fact, the Maine Principals Association said in a statement that it is, quote, bound by the law, including the Maine Human Rights Act, which our participation policy reflects. In other words, they're claiming that they have a right to stand by this. And I'm telling you, it ain't sitting well with the peeps. It ain't. And then, you know what's interesting? Is just when you think that she may actually be a Democrat with an R by her name, Susan Collins actually steps up. So Maine Senator Susan Collins, another piece by Fox News Dateline 2 days ago, has come out against her own state, saying that the state law that allows biological males to compete against girls is antithetical to the spirit and intent of Title IX. Ya think? Has she been openly critical all along? I don't know. If she has, I haven't heard it. But the bottom line is her state is like the ringleader for resisting the Trump executive order to get the wokeness out of women's sports. Maine Governor Janet Mills, you remember at the White House, she openly bucked President Trump in the meeting of governors. And he said, that's fine. I'll see you in court. But right now, what you got, if you want to save our kids, you're going to need people like even Susan Collins stepping up. She said it's critically important to treat people who are transgender with respect and dignity, but that does not change the fact that Title IX, which was passed back in 1972, has greatly expanded opportunities for girls and young women to participate in sports at high school and college level. And it did so in part by mandating equal access to athletic resources and facilities on the basis of sex, not on the basis of gender identity. Perfect. Perfectly said. All right, we're taking a break right now. When we get back, I'm going to tell you this. Tennessee just passed another important piece of legislation. It's not just school choice. They just passed something that deals with bathrooms. And you may want to hear about it in terms of saving our kids. So, JP, move us to the break, brother. We'll take the break right now. We will come right back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just, I mean, like, man, making common sense like a superpower. Giving you all the truth you can slap on a bumper sticker. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. Pulling pins on truth grenades. Did I miss any? I think I got bulletproof influence.
Yep, there
you
you
go.
Pierce got all
There
of
you
it.
go.
Yep.
Now I got them all. All of the stuff we're gonna put on T-shirts one day. All right, hey, listen. This piece about saving our kids. Let me cover a couple more things for you. By the way, back to the state of Maine. Maine. I've heard Maine's a beautiful state. I don't know what to tell you. I can't discern their politics. I don't understand their belligerence. I don't understand why they have suddenly dug in their heels on what is a literally losing proposition. But not only is Maine dealing with the transgender sports thing in a way that's not going to stand up well, but Maine is also now being investigated, as a state, being investigated on claims that they were withholding gender transitions from parents through the school systems. No kidding. So the U.S. Department of Education, according to AP, Dateline 4 days ago, said it launched an investigation on Friday, the day after it began a similar investigation into California. In both cases, the Federal Education Department said the states might be violating the Family Educational Rights Privacy Act. There's actual congressional law that says you can't just keep secrets from mom and dad. You can't. But that's what they're doing. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon says parents and guardians have a right to access their children's education records to guide and safeguard their child's mental, emotional, and physical well-being, and any policy to the contrary is illegal and immoral. So yes, save our kids. Sometimes it has to be done officially. How about this? Tennessee. Hello, Tennessee. My Chattanooga audience. Brand spanking new. There is a bill headed to the governor's desk as of last week. Requiring all public and private educational institutions that house students overnight to separate the bathrooms by, quote, immutable biological sex. I like it. I need some applause, JP. Give me some applause, brother. Just make it happen right there. Thank you. Thank you, Mama. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, NBC is not having it. NBC is not happy, but they're saying the legislation is just the latest effort targeting the transgender community in Tennessee, where Republican lawmakers have over the years repeatedly enacted bills aimed at the well, no, they're not. See, that's the thing. It's not terrorizing the LGBTQ community. It's protecting those that aren't. Listen, the end result is if you're born a dude, you go to the dude's bathroom. Sorry for your luck, but that's the way it is. You don't get to just change in midstream and expect everybody to go, oh, we're fine with that. Remember, I've said it before, that gender dysphoria is the only illness in the world where the proponents of gender dysphoria believe that healing is involved with all of us having to be a part of it with them. Like if it was anything else, if it was schizophrenia, if it was depression, if it was any other mental health issue, we would be trying to work them out of it and lovingly bring them out of it and provide treatments to help them come out of it. But no, the left believes that when it comes to gender dysphoria, we have to be in it. The only way is to affirm them in it. It doesn't work like that. I don't go affirm the depression. I don't go affirm the eating disorder. We don't do that. But gender dysphoria, that's what they want. So the bottom line is this bill's going. The article points out, by the way, currently 5 states have laws restricting restrooms for transgender use at colleges and universities. That's Alabama, yep, Florida, yep, Mississippi, Ohio, Utah, and now Tennessee. 2 additional states, West Virginia, Wyoming, have similar laws taking effect this year. Listen, I'm good with it. I'm good with it a lot. I'm good with it like a whole lot. And then I got one in Georgia right next door. So all my folks over yonder in Georgia, just know this. Dateline 2 days ago, Georgia's one step closer to banning transgender kids from being in girl sports. The article tries to say transgender girls. No, they're boys. Barring boys from playing girl sports. It's a WSB-TV local affiliate. They feel like they have to use the pronouns and the whole thing. But the bill puts a ban in Georgia law. So passionate debate ensued apparently on the House and Senate floors. But the bill is now saying that we will, well, if it passes both bodies, I think is it going to the governor? It did. It did pass the legislature. It now goes to Governor Brian Kemp to sign. So Brian Kemp's going to have an opportunity to sign the bill, and I suspect he will, that says that there won't be transgender sports in the state of Georgia. So bringing it around, protecting our kids. All right, you guys, coming up next, the Grand Council with Jeff Poore and Dale Jackson and little old me. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Side Radio. Phil Williams here live, but not in the Right Side studio today. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international, and oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, it's Wednesday. It's the beginning of the third hour. That can only mean one thing. It's time for a thing we call the Grand Council. I bring in two of my brethren in talk radio. They've been doing this for a while. We ping each other with questions. We just see where the chips fall. It turns into an interesting conversation sometimes. So let me call the roll. Looking to my north, at 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN, Cumulus Broadcasting, host of the Dale Jackson Show. Also, by the way, does a lot of stuff with Yellowhammer News. Also, by the way, has a TV gig. Dale Jackson, are you there?
Dale just, we lost him, so.
Did we just lose Dale?
As you were introing him, so let me turn him back.
Gummit. All right, well, you get him back, and I won't call a quorum until I know for a fact. But, turning to the south, from FM Talk 106.5 down yonder in Mobile, host of the Jeff Poor Show. Oh, by the way, he's the editor-in-chief for 1819 News. And, oh, by the way, works with Lanyap. And, by the way, with Breitbart. Jeff Poor, are you there?
I am present.
Well, I'm glad. And hopefully we'll get Dale back. Dale, are you back? Is he back now? What's we got? All right, stand at ease. I pronounce a quorum. Hit it before we lose Dale again.
Assemble the Grand Council.
All right, I'll tell you what, Jeff Poor, you first, man. What question do you have for the crew?
Let's talk about what happened last night, the three elections, the two Florida races, Wisconsin. Kind of looking at the numbers a little closely today. Maybe not an ideal night for Republicans. They took an L. But I think Democrats underperformed. I don't think the resistance is here yet. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that. So, and that's not just like puff talk by another Republican. I agree with you on the numbers. I think that they underperformed, and when you consider the fact that judicial race in the Supreme Court for Wisconsin, I think it was we got outspent by the tune of $7 million, most of which came from George Soros funding. And you know, they called about the billionaires swooping in to help the Republicans. The billionaires were upfunding the Democrats to an exponential degree, and it was not a huge spread in the vote count. So I do believe that it was a shame that we lost. I think down in Florida, I think the truth is that Trump's appearance towards the end of that race wound up being something that did help as opposed to hurt. And I think it might have been a little tighter if it had not been for Trump's appearance. So, no, I don't think the resistance is truly here yet. The D's needed a win, and they're going to claim it was, but I don't think it was the panacea for all their needs. Dale, what do you think?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that they get more excited about these special elections and off-year things because they're constantly agitated already. We mock them for only putting 200 people at these fake town halls and going to the park in Huntsville every weekend, in the park in Chattanooga every weekend, in the park in Birmingham every weekend, and screaming about Jews and carving Nazi signs and Teslas. Come election day, even if it's a random Tuesday in April, they show up. And so you get that small number of very ginned up people, and they're going to deliver for them. And that's just the reality that we have to accept. So I don't think it's maybe a huge sign or something, but it's not good. I mean, Republicans can say they held serve if they want, but I mean, they clearly lagged behind a general election percentage-wise. That happened, but what does it mean? I don't know.
Your own question, Jeff. What are you thinking?
Yeah, a couple of things. So it's not a long-term strategy, like you were saying, Dale. I don't think that's a sign of good health of the Democratic Party at large. They can win special elections. They can even probably take back Congress in the midterms. They're not going to win a presidency based on this number of people that show up in big numbers for these special election races. They have a very, very very vocal, very fervent support, but it's such a small number. It is good for picking off small fights, but the big fight, I think they're going to lose, and I think last night was sort of indicative of that.
Yeah, and I'll add one more piece to that too, Jeff. One of the issues they've got on the national stage is they don't truly have leadership to rally around or to give them guidance. And so their messaging sucks. And right now, their whole campaign platform is no Trump, bad Musk. And if the economy begins to tick up, if things are looking positive, if the general sense of the populace is we like where we are, that message is not going to resonate much longer. I mean, right now they've got the fervor of we're in the honeymoon and the anti-honeymoon phase. But if the economy continues to tick up, they're going to lose that last message they've got unless they find something to stand on. So there's that. Dale Jackson, what question do you have for the crew?
So there's been some talk today about Elon Musk potentially stepping away from the government here shortly. And then we also have these tariff things going on. Which lasts longer? Elon Musk's run as a special employee of the government or these tariffs Donald Trump put into place today?
Jeff, you want to take it first?
I don't know. I think the tariffs are very flexible. They're a negotiating tactic. I think they could go away at any moment. The stuff Elon Musk put in place, obviously not codified into law, could go away at any moment. Neither are built long for this world, but I think we'll be talking about Elon Musk a lot longer than we will be talking about tariffs.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think that so these tariffs, they are a bargaining chip. They're part of the projection of foreign policy power. But the reality is, if Canada will stop putting a 200% tariff on American butter, that tariff goes away tomorrow. If Japan will stop doing a 700% tariff on American rice, then that tariff goes away tomorrow. So I guarantee you there's a bunch of trade negotiation going on in the background that some of this will begin to go away. But what will happen is the cascade effect. As one nation watches the others begin to negotiate something favorable that America can live with, then other nations will realize you can actually negotiate this. And so I think we're going to come out of this pretty quick. The left needed to say bad Trump, and so they're trying to use this as the Armageddon for the economy, but I don't think it's going to be. And I think it's going to wind up being short-lived. By the way, Elon Musk, I think he only said he's going to be there for like 130 days anyway. And so that's going to happen. Any more on that, Dale? Is your question?
Well, I think Musk will be gone before the tariffs are gone. I think it is a strategy, but Donald Trump eventually is going to have to stick with this until he gets what he wants. And I don't think that's done in the next couple of months. So I think we're in tariff time right now, and I think we're gonna ride this out. If he folds, this is a big deal because this is the first real big swing here. If he folds, that
I don't think he's going to fold. We may have just lost Dale again. I don't think he's going to fold. I think he's going to wind up riding this thing out. JP, did we lose Dale? Is he still there?
I'm seeing he's still here. I'll work on it though.
I'm here.
Right, oh, good. Well, we're glad. All right, let me jump on one question here with about 2 minutes to go. Alabama. Let's take it local. The legislature has been struggling to get a prison construction done, and we are a $800 million prison plan that is now well over $1 billion, and they just extended another $500 million in mega prison bonding authority this week. Is this going to be a $2 billion prison before it's done? Are we ever going to see prisoners go into this prison? Jeff, you're down there a lot. What are you hearing?
Yeah, I think $2 billion is probably where it's headed. I think they'll borrow all that money, even though they say they aren't going to. Now, look, here's what we need to watch on the second prison. Are they going to do the stupid construction management boondoggle, or are they going to try to bid it and have a general contractor, the way we've always done stuff in this state, and hold these people when they commit to a price, hold them to that price and not leave a lot of flexibility for nothing more than change orders? That's the question. That's what we need to see. If they don't do that, and there's a real push from within not to do that, to just say the hell with it and go, the hell with what the public thinks, and do it the way we did the Elmore County Prison, then it's going to be very costly.
Oh my gosh. I mean, we're overcrowded. There's definite need. I've toured the infrastructure. It's We got some crumbling, architecture that needs to get, replaced. But this is absolutely asinine the way it's going right now. Dale, weigh in on it.
I mean, can't we have the RSA build it like they built the State House?
That makes the most sense, and then we lease it back from the RSA.
Yeah.
Listen, it boggles the mind. When it comes down to the idea that the RSA can build anything and get it done well, and then we lease it forever and ever, amen, and yet we can't do it otherwise, it's just.
Let me add to that.
Nuts.
I mean, isn't that the problem with government, that they can't do this? They have to get a third party to come in. Well, if that's the case, if RSA is so good at this, then why can't our Republican supermajority fix this?
I don't have an answer for you on that. But then if RSA is also so good at this, then why do we keep mandating a guaranteed 8% return? Why doesn't RSA get their own 8% return without the up funding from the legislature? I mean, it's the whole thing is a conversation that needs to happen. But we got to take a break, so that conversation is over. All right, we're taking a break right now. God, that was fast. Round one, the Grand Council with Jeff Poore and Dale Jackson, and just little old me, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, we're going back to round 2 of the Grand Council. And I'll remind you guys that the Grand Council brought to you every single week by DeKalb MD. That's DeKalb MD, and I'll tell you more about them here in just a few minutes. Second round, first question. Jeff Poor, what do you got?
So I'm hearing him in the State House, obviously, today, and there's a little concern here. The overtime tax not getting extended is going to come back and haunt some members. I think those who would prefer it go away quietly in the night without much rancor, but the Democrats are going to try to make some noise about it. Republicans who get on board with the effort, there could be a real split here between the leadership. Are they more, is this much ado about nothing, or do you think this could catch on if the overtime tax expires? It's perceived to be a tax increase.
Yeah, so it's amazing what can become viral real quick. I mean, more than once I saw a bill that no one thought was going to have traction or that even saw it coming suddenly become the most viral thing of the legislature. And the big example for me has always been when we got autism approved for coverage by insurance, and Blue Cross fought it like tooth and nail, and all of a sudden it became the most viral thing in the state. And it passed. And it didn't matter who said what, it was going to pass. But so in this particular case, I think that the citizens need to make sure they tell them, look, if you could spend $500 million more on $1 billion cost overrun for prisons, and you can raise fees on businesses, and you can do all the things you say you're doing, and you also just discovered you have a budget surplus that you didn't know you were going to have because revenue projections are better than they were, then by God, how about you just keep the overtime tax exemption in place that you said was a great idea last year? This should be a no-brainer. It's low-hanging fruit. And yet, for some reason, the weak sisters have decided we just gave away too much money. We can't. We got to have it back. And it's maddening to me to watch them claim to be conservatives and to do this very thing with an existing tax break. I could go all day on this one. Dale, what do you got?
Well, I mean, if I was Anthony Daniels, this is what I would say. I would say, do tax cuts cost money or not? I mean, that the whole philosophy behind almost every tax cut from Republicans is the idea that it generates more money than the cut cost. And the argument by Democrats is, no, it's a tax cut and it takes money out of our precious treasury. Why don't these idiots get together and actually believe and then go with that?
No, it's a great point. In fact, Anthony Daniels was on my show a couple of weeks ago, and he said that he's actually had constituents who called him and said, I was able to hire more people because since I could get more people to work overtime, I was able to get more contracts. And so what it basically did was it generated income, and it generated new business opportunities. This is a mistake if they let this go, and I'll make hay over it. Listen, will it be a death knell to some political careers? I don't know. But it could go viral here real quick, and it could actually pass with bipartisan support. Jeff, your thoughts?
Well, y'all need to take names here. Watch this close. There's a real chasm here between the two sides of the Republican caucus, and I think it's bubbling underneath. But you heard it here first. I mean, I think you're going to see it could get real ugly, depending on because people there's a little bit of a problem here with Republicans going that hard for a Democrat bill, and it's gonna ruffle some feathers.
So let me
the thing
ask
is,
question.
Go ahead.
Here's my question. Is there a philosophy in the legislature right now that if you don't have enough, if the Republicans don't agree with it, we're not going to do it? Meaning, will they work with all the Democrats against a majority of Republicans in order to make this happen? Will they do that?
No, that will not happen. But there will be names, there will sponsorships on bills and a lot of rhetoric back and forth. And what did they hold in high esteem in this building is that kind of, they got to work together as a team, guys. They do value bipartisanism for some reason, but you don't turn on your own party. That's a cardinal sin, and that's sort of where we're at right now.
Well, here's the thing: that if that's happening, then they are strictly about. Which, by the way, I'm all for party. I get that; it's your team. but they are losing the sight of the fact that they have principles, and the principles say that small government and lower taxation and those principles are the guiding force. And what they're going to say is, well, because a Democrat actually carried this bill, then it's no longer one of our principles.
Well, so and I can speak to that a little bit. I mean, they had a caucus meeting. They decided that this is the way they're going to go. They're going to do the grocery tax. They're going to do the tax deduction expansions, and then that was going to be it. They weren't going to pursue this policy. And there's some Republicans who said, "To hell with that. We don't, and we thought we had this all settled, and here you are making a big deal about this again." So well, watch. I mean, I think you're going to have a real fight here internally in the House GOP.
Well, God forbid we should have a real fight in the GOP. I mean, right now, what happens is when the Democrats are woefully behind on everything, Republicans get fat and lazy. So the idea that we're finally going to have a fight about something meaningful like a tax break is actually a pretty good thing. I say fight. I say fight publicly. Get out there and have the debate, and talk about why the principle doesn't matter as much as what happened in the caucus meeting. And those are important, and I get it.
And not to make this a really long segment about me, but I think that you got to show that there's political consequences in taking one side or another. If you don't do that, then the sheep are just going to follow the herd. And there's got to be they got to make it known that this is like a real there's real consequences here for not doing the right thing.
Well, I'm not sure where we're going with that, but the music's playing, so I got no choice but to say we're done. But the reality is this: Republicans got to stand for something, or just stand for an R, and that's all it is. All right, fellas, appreciate you. That ran quick. All right, y'all, Jeff Poore, Dale Jackson, and me, the Grand Council, every week on the third hour on Wednesdays. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. Goes from Huntsville all the way back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back to Gadsden. I mean all the way down to that loveliest little town on the plains we call Auburn, Final Four. And then stretching across the border into Fort Benning, because now it's called Fort Benning once again. And just while we're at it, big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. All right, listen, I got to tell you real quick before I go to the phones. So the Grand Council segment we just did, which is every week on Wednesdays in the third hour, the Grand Council is brought to you by DeKalb MD. Healthcare Simplified, y'all. DeKalb MD, they're a direct primary care network of clinics located in Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. And here's the thing, they are so cool. Think about this. What would it mean if you could go to the doctor and not have to worry about your insurance? How do you do that? Well, like DeKalb MD is called concierge medicine. You pay a monthly membership, $75 a month. It's like joining a gym. $75 a month. You get all the things that members should get, like same day or next day scheduling, no waits, longer visits with your healthcare provider, after hours access, no additional cost, a direct phone number to call or text your medical provider anytime. They'll even mail prescriptions to your house. $75 a month. DeKalb MD. They work with you instead of your insurance. And listen, there's 2 locations in Chattanooga for our Chattanooga audience, so you need to know that. DeKalb MD, primary care with you in mind. Check them out. I encourage you to do it. Go to their website, check them out. It's www.dekalb, it's DEKALB, dekalbmd.com. And tell them, by the way, if you go there, that you heard about it on Rightside Radio. I would appreciate that very much. All right, let me jump over to the phones because I see that Jeffro from Indiana is on the line. Jeffro, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. Just got back into Tennessee.
Nice. All right, so you're back into Tennessee, but you're before Nashville is what you're telling me.
Actually, I'm sitting on the scales at the chicken coop right now. If anybody knows what chicken coop is, they'll know what that is.
Oh, my gosh. Well, so tell me what you think about all the stuff we've been talking about today, man. I hadn't even touched Doge yet, but I've got Save Our Kids, Strong Defense, and then you heard the Grand Council. What are you thinking?
Well, I was wanting to address the prison thing that was brought up. You mean you guys are going to spend $2 billion on a prison?
Prisons. Now, listen, I'll say this. It's designed to be a mega prison. We have 28 prison facilities around the state, and most of them are overcrowded, and most of them are also falling apart. So I do get the need. But yeah, the original cost was like $800 million. They're well over $1 billion, and they don't even have it, they don't even have it completed. And now they had to extend it by another $500 million potential spending authority. So at that point, we're at $1.5 billion. And this was going to be multiple prisons, and now it's not even multiple prisons anymore.
How many bed prisons are these?
I don't remember the number of beds, but it's going to be significant. They're going to shut down. I want to say they're going to shut down something like 8 or 9 facilities in order to incorporate them into one. But it's still, it's unbelievable, man.
Well, for that kind of money, I suggest that you go to Arizona and find Joe Arpaio. He knows how to deal with prisoners. He puts them in tents in the desert, and it seems to be pretty cost effective. And you being in the military and everything, why should a prisoner be treated any better than a U.S. Soldier?
Well, this is not, by the way, yeah, well, I agree with that. But this is not going to be like a finer living conditions and, a health club. It's not going to be like that. But part of it is because of safety. Part of it is because of location. They have trouble recruiting guards. I mean, I was in the legislature. We were dealing with this when I was there, but we weren't dealing with this expense. But right now, they struggle with recruiting because so many of these were put out into outlying areas where no one wanted to live. But back then, it didn't matter as much. Now they're having trouble with recruiting for guards. They got all kinds of problems. They don't. Now federal law requires you to be a certain distance from a hospital. That a lot of them aren't. So they're struggling with some stuff they got to fix. But man, the expense is getting out of hand.
there's some swamp ground in Alabama, I'm sure. Put this thing out in the middle of the swamp, and a few gators around there, to keep them kind of from wanting to get away, and put them in these tents, separate the good from the bad, and troublemakers, build some concrete bunkers for the ones who can't behave, and hey, maybe they could even burn some toppy for making their meals in the heat. Who knows?
Burn some toppy. You remember that one? That's right. Get you a good turd fire to cook over. That'd be all right. So,
there's enough cattle. There's enough cattle in Alabama. I think it would have a lot of toppy around.
No kidding. I don't know, man. What do y'all do in Indiana?
Well, I've got a prison in my county and everything. It's medium security and everything, and they don't have any problem there and everything. I'm not sure what the expense is on it, but it's been there since the 80s. And
some of ours have been there since the 40s and 50s. I mean, we got some decrepit infrastructure in our prison system.
Yeah. I mean, for that kind of money, you could build everyone $100,000 house and have them put in there privately for $2 billion. Good Lord.
We'll just take one of Alabama's barrier islands and make it like Escape from New York, and we'll just say, go live on the island. You're good luck to you. Lord of the Flies. Well, it's all going to work out.
It'd be cheaper than $2 billion. That's what I'm saying.
No doubt. No doubt. All right. Well, we'll see, man. I mean, I'm still boggled by the whole thing, the fact that this expense keeps going. Now, part of it, I guess, is because COVID. We've never recovered the costs. Of like building materials went through the roof during COVID, which was inexplicable. But thank you, Biden. But the reality is they've got to figure out some way to bring this back into control. And right now, I don't think they have the means to do it.
I would give the nonviolent prisoners tell them how, teach them how to build and everything. Maybe they could build. You just use prison labor for that kind of money. My gosh.
Hey man, before you go, I got to ask you a question. Val Kilmer, what was his best role?
I think it was as the Doc Holliday.
Doc Holliday in Tombstone. I think most people would agree with that. I think absolutely most people.
Yeah.
Of course, he made a very convincing Iceman in his his big screen debut or big screen hit debut with Top Gun. But yep, Val Kilmer gone today, but he will always be remembered as Doc Holliday, I believe.
Yeah, and everybody's got a different opinion of him. Some say he was a real just pain to work with, and other people say it was great. So, I'd like to know the real story behind that.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we'll never know. Now we'll just enjoy the movies and remember when he was. But, all right, brother, be safe on the road. We appreciate you.
Have a good one, Phil.
You too, buddy. See you now. Yeah, Val Kilmer passed away basically last night, I think, or maybe this morning. But I had read that, and I don't have like his whole career. I wasn't like a huge groupie or anything, but I just liked some of his roles. But he was in a movie called like Real Genius, and it was kind of like a goofy teen movie back in the 80s. And a year later, he was Iceman, and he was killing it as Iceman in Top Gun. Like what a complete role reversal. But that was part of his versatility. But he had an interesting personal life too. Let's don't look aside from that. But all said and done, it was nobody can ever say that Tombstone wasn't his best role. It just absolutely was. I got a real quick call that I'll take real quick. Thomas from Athens before I go to the break. Thomas, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Colonel. How are you?
I'm good. What's on your mind?
The prison guard situation, we have a lot of homeless veterans. They have a certain pretty good skill set. I think we could train them to be prison guards and move them to where we need prison guards.
I don't think it has to be homeless veterans. It can be any veteran. But yeah, I agree.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
We do have veterans hiring benefits, and Alabama is openly hiring right now. So if somebody wants a job as a prison guard, they can apply. I mean, it's available.
Well, maybe a lot of people don't know that we need prison guards like that.
Well, that's a great point. And we have a significant shortage, but there's great benefits. It's a great career. I believe you get APO certified, which is the Alabama Peace Officer Standards and Testing. And so if folks are interested, you can go to either, I think it's the Alabama Department of Corrections website, and they're hiring right now. They'll send you to the academy and put you to work.
Hey, that's outstanding. Let's get some of our men and women employed.
Thanks, Thomas.
Reemployed.
Appreciate you.
Okay, got this.
I get a few text messages real quick. Dustin from Hillsborough says, "Don't overlook Val Kilmer spoofing Elvis in Top Secret." I do not recall this. I need to see. Now I'm starting to get intrigued by his whole career.
Yeah, I didn't know half of these roles that these people are texting in even existed.
I know. Marcus from Huntsville mentioned one that I said earlier. He said The Saint was a fantastic movie of his. And he wanted to know, did anybody mention the movie Real Genius, which I just did. So Marcus, thank you very much. Mike from Arab said there was a movie called The Saint. Oh, there it is again. That Val Kilmer starred in. That he played all the characters. Yeah, that was a crazy cool movie. I need to go back and watch that one again. I'd forgotten about it until today when I started to think about him passing away. Scott from Russellville says, "Do you remember Top Secret with Val Kilmer?" No. See, I need to look up his movie list and just see what else is there. And then Allie from Athens is apparently a groupie. She says Val Kilmer in The Saint with Elizabeth Shue. Apparently I have to go watch The Saint now because I've been reminded of it like 4 times.
Well, I haven't. It's been a while since I've rewatched Tombstone, so I may have to just do that tonight in honor of Val Kilmer.
You should.
Yes.
You should. And then go ahead and just stay up later and watch True Grit while you're at it.
I'm going to have to do that.
All right, take me to the last break of the day there, JP. We'll take a break. We'll come right back. Yeah, lots of doings going on. I'll tell you a few things about Doge, even though we didn't get a chance to really dive into it. But we'll come back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. So a lot of y'all chiming in on the Val Kilmer thing. I got to tell you, I'm reading a quote right now. Somebody posted on X. I can only assume it's real, feels real. But Michael Biehn, you remember Michael Biehn, the actor who played Johnny Ringo? Why, Johnny Ringo, you look like someone just walked on your grave. Anyway, Johnny Ringo Michael Biehn was asked at a convention once what it was like to work with Val Kilmer when he was filming Tombstone. He said, I don't know. I never met Val Kilmer while I was filming Tombstone. I only met Doc Holliday.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So apparently he stayed in character most of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's.
But I'm also seeing texts of people saying that he played Batman, and I didn't even know he played Batman until I was on X and saw pictures of him. Apparently, it was Batman Forever in '95. I didn't even know that was a thing.
And by the way, I'm going to go ahead and say that's not big doings because everybody's neighbor's house cat has played Batman at some point.
That is true.
I think we had Val Kilmer, Mike, what's his name, the comedian, former Michael Keaton, George Clooney, God, who else has Ben Affleck, of course Christian Bale.
Yep.
Christian Bale who was the best Batman, do you think?
Christian Bale, in my
Christian
opinion.
Bale.
Yeah.
By far.
Although the most recent one, his name was Robert Pattinson. He did a pretty good job as Batman, I think.
You know what? I haven't seen that one.
Really?
That's the one that was one that was real edgy, right?
Yeah, it was edgy. It had like Nirvana as its theme, like song for the movie. I liked it. I mean, it wasn't as good as the Christian Bale ones, but it's a good movie. But yeah,
I thought the Christian Bale, the very first one, was it Batman Begins? I thought the Christian Bale one was the first one that made it almost feel like it could be real.
Yeah,
that's
the Christian Bale Batman movies will never be topped. So it's a high bar, but I think the Robert Pattinson didn't do a bad one. But who knows? Maybe even though it was kind of small doings, I bet Kilmer probably did a good Batman. Knowing Kilmer, I mean, he could do a good anything.
He did, but it's not his most memorable. But you know what, though? Here's the thing. Val Kilmer in Tombstone, nobody wants to play Doc Holliday now.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, I'm guessing. I'm not like I've talked to everybody in Hollywood. But what I'm saying is, who wants to try and go be Doc Holliday knowing that the standard for Doc Holliday is never going to be topped?
Yeah, it will never be topped. You always be the other guy that played Doc Holliday.
Yeah. The guy who wasn't as good as Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
Graham from Meridianville says Doc Holliday was his best role, but he played an amazing Jim Morrison. Oh, that's right, he did. He played Jim Morrison and did the singing himself. He said, I didn't know he sang himself. That's true, he did, and he was very convincingly spaced out. He was. Dustin from Hillsborough says Top Secret is like a Mel Brooks movie. Okay, got to check that out.
We have a Facebook comment, by the way. David Edwards said that his role in Willow and Top Secret were amazing.
All these movies that I'm thinking, okay, wait a minute. Now I got to go see some others.
Yeah.
Isn't that a shame, though? We wait until he's gone to go, I got to see those movies.
Yeah.
Sam from Priceville said he did play Batman, too, but Doc Holliday was the best. Wendy from Moulton says, I think Val Kilmer is one of the best actors of all time. For me, his ability to get into character so good that he can make you forget that it was really him. That, you know what? I think that would be one of the hallmarks of success, isn't it? Where you can actually forget who that person is, and by the way, versatility too. Like I don't know, maybe are you an Adam Sandler fan?
I mean, not an avid one, but I enjoy all of his movies. Yeah.
See, I don't, and part of that is because Adam Sandler is the same character in every movie.
That's true.
It just feels to me like it's the same. There's one movie he did that was it was called Someone to Look Over Me or Watch Over Me, which was a serious movie. He played with Don Cheadle, and he was actually really, really good at playing a serious role.
Yeah.
But all the rest of his movies he's the same character in every movie.
So I think Adam Sandler is funny. However, Adam Sandler's versatility as an actor, like you said, Adam Sandler couldn't become any role. Like whenever you cast Adam Sandler, you're casting Adam Sandler, which
that's exactly right.
He's funny, but not, you wouldn't put him up there with the great actors because of that, like you said.
No. In fact, several people are putting in a movie I'd forgotten about, The Ghost in the Darkness. You ever seen that one?
I have not. No.
It's based on it's semi based on a true story about a pair of lions that became very out of character. Some say that there was even almost like a spiritual content to this. And these two lions began hunting people. And Val Kilmer was the hunter who was brought in to try and catch the ghost in the darkness, is what it was called.
Interesting.
It was a really good movie. Brian from Huntsville says, "Fare thee well, Val Kilmer. We have lost our Huckleberry." There you go. New texture doesn't tell us who they are or where they're from. Says Ghost in the Darkness. David from Bucky says the original Batman, Adam West. That was the campiest, but I loved that show as a kid. You're right. John from Huntsville says he's deducting points from Phil and JP's grades for saying that Val Kilmer is not the best Batman, so the winner is now Jeff from Indiana.
I think the Christian Bale Batman trilogy is like one of the greatest trilogies ever. I mean, you can't top Christian Bale as Batman. Come on.
No, I mean, why would anybody even contest that?
Yeah.
All right, can I get some points back real quick? War Eagle. There we go. Josh from Coleman also says Ghost in the Darkness. Andrew from Tony said he did do his own singing in Top Secret, too. He must have had a great voice, which is ironic because he had that throat cancer and he lost the ability to speak late in life. And then Mike from Arab said, I had to go watch movies I'd forgotten about when Gene Hackman died also. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Gene Hackman. What a great actor. Gene Hackman could on the one hand be hilarious, and then the next he could make you just almost be creeped out by how bad he was. I'll tell you who else is that way. As long as I only got a minute left.
We got like 5 seconds for the music.
5 seconds.
Yeah.
Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington can be the most incredibly likable and then unlikable character all at the same time.
Yeah, which makes him a great actor.
Which is in Training Day, I didn't even like him anymore. And then I saw him in some of the others. All right. Music's playing. Listen, you guys, I am on the road tomorrow, in the air tomorrow, and traveling all over the place. So tomorrow, JP and Yaffe have the show. I'll be back on Friday. You guys have an amazing night. Do not forget, there are more of us than there are of them. God is still on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you soon.